Hey, what is going on, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic Sunday. Welcome to the AV Experience. We're on episode 103. Super pumped tonight. We're just going to hang out for a while, answer your questions, give you a couple updates about Ryan's home theater. I know he's been working hard on that. He's like, what? What updates? Hadn't done anything yet. We'll give you
tried.
some. Everybody wants to know. They're like, where's he at with his theater? We'll give you a couple of things regarding M-Wave, and then we'll dive into your questions. So if you got questions for the night, drop those in the chat. We'll be starring those as we go. And of course, super chats get priority, but definitely not required. And before we get too far into it, I always want to give a big thanks to our sponsor, Ascend AV. This little dude, he's not even little. He's the tallest dude around.
I look little.
6'7". Did I get that right?
No.
Dang it. How tall?
6'5".
6'4". Okay, 6'5".
Close enough.
Close enough.
But if
it's
you guys
all the same.
if you guys need any kind of home theater stuff, reach out to Ryan. You can hit him up at ascendav.net. He'll hook you up, take good care of you. So cool, man. Fellas, how was your week?
Crazy. Just crazy amount of work, but good because making a lot of progress.
Cool, man. Rusty is in the process of selling his business. So lots and lots of meetings and lots of lawyers and signatures and negotiations and frustrations and pushbacks and all that fun stuff, all balled into one.
Yeah.
We had a lot of soccer.
Yeah.
I had a weekend full of soccer, and I don't think I had anything else. It wasn't very eventful.
Yeah.
I mean, I had some eventful stuff happen during the week, but nothing over the weekend.
Yeah, my youngest daughter's graduating high school this year. Man, that makes you feel old, guys. I don't know if y'all have kids or older kids in the chat, but man, my oldest son is 24. My youngest baby is 18. So that is pretty wild. But this morning we had their graduation service at our church. So that was really cool just to recognize. And there was probably 15 high school graduates on stage. So a pretty big group. But yeah, man. Jonathan, what is up, man?
Gentlemen, just came from some family stuff.
No, you're good, man. You can pop in and out anytime you want. So we're just catching up on our week. How was your week, man?
It was good. Busy work. Nothing to report, really. Just kind of a normal week.
Yeah. Normal stuff, huh? Well, super cool. Let me say hi to some folks in the chat. We got Gerald, good to see you. SRW 1000, Chris, Tarhoya, Richard, Tyler, what is up, man? K-Man. Oh, I'll mention this in a little bit. Dave, good to see you. What else we got? Gene, JD. JD, we've been missing you, man. You've been out of pocket for a while. Got Kramer. Who else we got in here? Jeffrey. I'm just scrolling real fast. Cool, man. Charles, good to see you. Hey, man, we're going to have some fun tonight. Like I said, if you got questions, drop those in the chat. And literally, we're going to get started here in just a second answering those. I was going to mention to you, M-Wave, we had another guy reach out just recently. He's coming from Canada, man. Canada's coming out of the woodworks for M-Wave, man. It's pretty cool. I'll be honest, man, that's just wild just to think that we've got people literally flying in from all over the world, from the UK, Canada, Brazil, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, of course, the US. Who else am I missing? I think there was one other.
Europe.
Europe. Well, that's UK.
Germany.
Is that two different people?
I don't remember how many.
Okay. I know John is coming from the UK.
There's a few countries in the EU that are represented.
Ryan's room's coming from Italy. Does that count? Italy represented?
There'll be some vendors from Italy and Germany.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And Switzerland.
Yeah.
Are you starting to sweat a little bit, Ryan, now that it's a month and a week out, and your room's not there yet? Better question asked offline.
No, it's fine. So for anybody that doesn't know, I posted in the Kansas City chat, the Mad VR Experience Center, we had a hiccup last week. The 32s went down fine. The 50 didn't fit.
The Ascendo 50.
It will
Man.
not fit down the stairs.
Wow.
So we got it in the house.
The box, not the
box.
subwoofer.
Yeah, the driver will fit fine. The box will not fit. So I have a structural engineer coming out on Tuesday, and we have to move a joist or two in order, or support them while we move the box in order to get it downstairs, then repair it. Now, the benefit of that is that I hit my head on this joist quite frequently. I have some sunglasses that have some nice scratches on them from me hitting my head on it. So moving it isn't the worst thing. And I don't anticipate it being a problem. It's for anybody that has basement stairs. A lot of the basement stairs, like if you have stairs directly above them going upstairs, you have joists. Well, I guess even then, regardless if you have stairs above them, your joists start at a certain point because your floor on the floor above it is there. And that's what these joists are. So the structural engineer, when I was talking to him briefly, said usually it's not a big deal. I mean, you could take one out and it wouldn't hurt anything. The subfloor is going to be more than supportive of everything above it. So I'm not concerned. It's just, I want to make sure you want to do your due diligence. It's like when Jonathan was moving that post, like he could have gone YOLO and just moved it and then just looked at his wife when his basement ceiling collapsed. Like, I thought it was going to work. I don't want to have that happen. And so we're engaging a structural engineer. He's going to come out and we'll move it, take the sawzalls out, cut through it, and get the sub moved. I don't anticipate it being a huge problem. It's just a roadblock. My wife hates it because anytime I do something like these big projects, something always comes up. But I didn't tell her this. It doesn't matter. Like if you're at work and you do big projects, something always happens. Like there is always something that you have to overcome. I mean, you guys always know this. There is something without a doubt that you are not prepared for that you have to deal with. So this is one of them. Last time I checked, the room was leaving Italy. So hopefully it's on the water. I mean, we got a little bit of a buffer. So
we'll put that thing on a speedboat.
Oh yeah.
So quick question on that. So to kind of catch some of the guys up in the chat that aren't familiar, they're building your room, or they've already built your room.
Like,
they ship it over in pieces. Now, are you going to assemble that, or is Maurizio going? Is it Maurizio?
So the plan is to have Maurizio come out and help me install it. We don't know.
He'll help you. Okay.
Well, so there's some stuff that comes up with that. There's some travel stuff because he's from Europe. And work restrictions and things with how long you need to remain in the country so people aren't just coming in and out all the time. Because there's a Trinov showroom grand opening happening in a couple weeks. So I think he's going to that. So I don't know. Right now. The room was supposed to be here the week of the 23rd, 24th. So hopefully it still arrives around that time. I'm anticipating it's going to be a little bit later than that. It should take 3 days or so to install, and then we're off and rolling. So I'm not worried about it yet. I mean, my anxiety will steadily increase, but I'm not worried about getting the experience center rocking yet.
So Paul asked in regards to your subwoofer, why can't the driver be removed from the box to get it downstairs? They actually did that.
They had to.
So it's
the driver,
the physical box that is
box.
the issue. It's just too big.
I still think, man, and
I'm not cutting it in half.
A skill saw and a surgical line around the whole thing and some silicone.
Man, I have already sent pictures to Jeffrey about like taking the driver out and things like I already had to cut into the back because the driver, we went from a single voice coil driver to dual voice coil. I mean, the voice coil on this thing, they're enormous. It's like a 5-gallon bucket for a voice coil. Like it's huge.
Do you have pictures of that?
I can't share them.
Oh, that's too bad.
I wish I could, but I can't. So
Flex tape. Somebody
when
says
we were-
flex tape. Cut it.
when we were trying to take the speaker wire off the back where the terminals are,
That's nice.
the voice coils, the magnets in them are so strong, we couldn't hold the tools back there
Yeah.
steady to get the wire out of the terminals. Like it kept magnetizing to the voice coil, and we were back there with like two hands trying to hold it, and we just couldn't do it until we got really lucky with two people doing it. But
Mm.
I don't want to imagine the look on Jeffrey's face if I sent him a picture with me with a skill or a sawzall just cutting the box in half.
Or chainsaw.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
one
I just wanna
problem
say,
though
like,
that I
I
didn't
really-
think about with that though, Jonathan, is that if I do cut it, I am going to lose about 1 millimeter of space, right, from the blade coming
More than
through
a
it.
millimeter, probably.
And I don't know what that's going to do to fitting the driver back into the
I
cabinet.
really don't think it'll matter because here I'll tell you.
I'm trying to come
saying
up
this
with reasons to not do it.
in
You
all
don't-
seriousness. It'll take out the width of a skill saw blade. You're absolutely right.
I don't want to do it.
But when you mount the driver back in, there'll be a little gap, and you can put like a wood shim in there, like a little slim wood shim all the way around. It can even be out of plastic if you prefer.
No.
And then a single board all the way around, like a trim board covering that spot. You can paint it. You can finish it however you want. Silicone on it. It's going to be behind the wall. No one will ever
No, it
see it.
won't.
It's quite the
Oh.
story.
It will. You will be able to see it.
The back of the box you won't see. In
Yeah,
the
but
front,
you'll
you
be
can have a
able to
little
see
trim
the
board.
front. Oh, stop
A
it!
beautiful little trim board that explains what you had to do to make
Stop
this
it!
work. The
Stop.
links you had to go through.
I just admire your dedication to like
Yeah.
cutting your house before cutting the subwoofer. Like that's
Well,
That's a
I mean,
true enthusiast.
Jonathan's just as bad. He moved a post to get his dang seats to fit.
that's
Can you
true.
imagine having that conversation with the missus? Hey, I want to get this seats, but for them to fit properly, I need to move the basement support for the house.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
It's dedication, man, for sure.
I'm not cutting that in half because the other worry that I have is with the pressures that may be going on, I don't know what may happen. Like I don't.
Okay, so scrap the idea of cutting it in half. Can you just build a box down there? Isn't that easier than like actually doing all the work you're talking about with the structural engineer and Joyce and the
No.
whole basement rework? Like you
No,
could just literally build a new box down there.
I
You have
don't think
it's a
it's
sealed
that
box,
bad.
just a box.
Because it's what'll probably end up happening is we'll have to fine saw out the drywall, right, to see the joists, and then we're going to cut the joist while it's either side's being supported by floor jacks,
Mhm.
right, just to make sure that it's good.
Mhm.
Move the sub, refit in that piece, and then drywall it.
Be
Not
sweet.
that one piece. I mean, we would sister it and put in steel and stuff to reinforce it, but yeah, I don't think it's.
So
that
what
big
you're
of a
saying
deal.
is this house is coming with the sub when you sell it. Like it's
Yeah.
included. It's never leaving
No.
ever again.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not. It'll be my coffin. Just bury me in the house. Just don't tell the next homeowner.
What is that?
I'm not sure how that's gonna work, Ryan, because that's $100,000 sub. You'll be like, this house is this price, but the sub is not quite free, so we'll have to work that out. It's another $100,000 for the non-removable sub.
You can't take it out.
So you
So
can just take the driver with you and not
just
the
leave
sub.
the cabinets.
Yeah. Turn it on its side, call it a coffee
I mean,
table.
realistically, what would probably happen if we ever did move would be to just destroy the cabinet, take the driver, rebuild another one from a professional cabinet manufacturer, and then have it brought in. The problem is these cabinets are made to such a high extent that me building one is not going to do it any justice. I mean, it's double stacked Baltic birch with tons of reinforcement, and it's just no. Yeah, Ryan, don't walk out.
I love it.
Hmm.
That's the G-rated version. I appreciate
yeah,
that.
Yeah. Well, so anything else going on? The 32s did make it down. Once the 50 is down, I'll probably we got to start getting everything else down. So I've got 5 pallets of speakers that have to come down. So a lot of work still to do.
You know what? I don't really feel so bad about not having a basement anymore.
Well,
There's some challenges to that too.
I'm just glad that we figured out that the sub would not fit down the stairs before we got it on the stairs.
Could you imagine? Oh my gosh.
Building a box in the basement would be much easier, but then I'd have to get a really good cabinet maker to come over, and
I'm not belittling your plan. I just think it's so complex to do what you're trying to do versus building a box. Doug could come over, and you could pay Doug to come over. He makes good boxes with all the reinforcement you want. Precision cuts, it'd look good. Finish it however you want. If you want it to have a black veneer on it, you can do that, or however you want. A matte finish.
Dazzle stuff around it, man. It'd look awesome.
some sprinkle and confetti on it. Glitter.
Yeah.
Fine, I'll call Doug after this.
I
would trust Doug to do it.
Yeah, might be an option.
Then the question is does he have time?
How long is it going to take him to build it? And
yes.
Well, I think it'd be a lot cheaper, and maybe that's not. I don't know how much it would cost to do what you're talking about, but it's not. It's gonna be thousands, right? Many thousands, I would assume.
No. I got a guy the guy that did the room. So I'm not worried about it, but you do bring up, I'll call Doug because I do trust Doug to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he can sign it. That may lead to more work for Doug. I don't know.
And then you got an empty 50-inch subwoofer box for the living room that needs a driver. Just tell your wife it needs a driver.
Hey, remember how much you like the fireplace? Well, I'm just going to put a big ass box.
You know what I do, Ryan? I'm serious. I'd fill that box up with fiberglass. That'd be a hot tub. Like straight up, man. That's a big old hot tub. Like a 7-seater in that thing, man, at least.
That's
Put
funny.
some jets in there, custom LEDs.
All right, I'm gonna text Doug. That's all I got for now.
I love it, man. So quite stressful. I know there's some other guys in the chat. They're building home theaters. We've got, where you at here? Chirpy's in the house. So he's currently building one for M-Wave. So his theater is completely booked. I know Gene is working on his. He's one of my patrons. So Brian has got a home theater he's been building for a while, doing it all himself, man. And my hat's off to you guys that are able to do that. I couldn't build squat, man. There's no way. So, well, cool, man. Well, let's jump on in it. We've got some questions here. So if you got questions, drop those in the chat and we'll keep an eye on those as we go through these. And anyway, if you want to come to M-Wave, we'd love to have you. We're gonna have some fun. Get all the details on the website. All right, let's jump on in. All right, Dave says, will it hurt to leave your amps on all the time, or is it best to run a trigger and turn them on or off? Curious what you guys use. So I use external amps. Rusty, you got external amps?
Yep, I do.
I know Ryan does, and Jonathan. So all of us have external amplifiers. I have a single monolith 11X amplifier. It's connected to a preamp, and then I use a trigger to turn it on and off. So my amp doesn't stay technically on all the time. Rusty,
yeah.
What's your setup like?
Same here. I use Buckeye amps for the speakers, and those have a trigger input. Okay. And then for the Behringer amps, they don't. And so I run those into a Furman 20, PFI 20, something like that. Mm-hmm. And you can switch the bank of outlets on and off with the trigger. Okay. And I'd say turn them off when you're not using them. They just generate a lot of excess heat.
Mm-hmm.
At least
yours are Class D though, right?
Yeah, they still
really
still
a little bit of heat.
Everything I guess combined puts out a decent amount of heat.
Okay.
But yeah, they're all Class D.
Yeah. Fellas?
I'm the same boat as you guys. Triggers turn mine on and off. And I have enough amps where I've calculated it out by using a watt meter. My amp draw is over 700 watts with my system on, just idle, like doing nothing, no music playing, nothing, just idle 700 watts. So I'm not going to leave that on because electricity cost is significant with that.
Sir, is there any benefit to leaving them on all the time? Like, I wouldn't think so.
I don't think it hurts them. Sometimes electronics seem to, like that, but it doesn't. I called a Crown engineer about this actually, because the way I'm using my amps on my Crown, it doesn't have a built-in trigger. It's equivalent of just pulling the plug. on my Crown X8 300s, and I said, "Is this hard on them, or is this doing any damage?" And they said, "No, it's not doing any damage. Don't worry about
I wouldn't
that."
worry about it on pro amps, but the thing you do want to consider is on anything that's not Class D, the heat, you're technically changing the sound potentially, right? Especially with the big Class B amps, the big guys, as they warm up, you're changing things minutely. So if you are turning things on and off, there is a probably technical benefit to allowing them to warm up, but would you notice? I don't know. But I wouldn't leave them on. I would turn them off, regardless of the amp.
Somebody's asking, how do you trigger pro amps? There's usually not triggers on them. There are triggers on some, I should say. Some of the permanent installation amps have them, but a lot of your like mobile ones that are meant for mobile won't have them, and so you have an external trigger. On AVS forum, if you look up a forum member named NOTNYT, you can do a search for his do-it-yourself 12-volt trigger. And then you just effectively at that point, you're using a trigger in line that goes off the AVR pre-pros triggers, and it will just basically is like pulling the plug. That's how my iNukes are set up.
And that's essentially what I'm doing with the Furman. It's just pre-built, the Furman not power conditioner, whatever it is. Maybe it is a power conditioner. Yeah, but that's the main reason I like it is for the switching.
All right, so pretty unanimous there. So Home Theater Denmark, appreciate the donation. Made the wildest Youthman deal, 120-inch elite screen, used about 20 hours, $130 with delivery. Heck yeah, man. Not a bad first-time screen for your home theater journey. Man, that's exciting. Dude, so let me know in the chat, what size are you coming from? So you're going to 120, like what size was your TV before that? That's always interesting. You know, if they've got like 65 and then you go to 120, it's like, that's a whole new experience, man. That is super cool. Really, really happy for you. It's always neat to see people kind of along their journey, you know, and that's what we're all about here, you know, wherever you're at in that journey. That's super cool. Keep an eye on the chat for me, guys, if he mentions. But yeah, that's super, super cool, man. Clinton says, would running a USB-C to HDMI from my iPhone to my integrated amps ARC input work, or would the fact that the phone is also sending a video signal cause it to not work? What's he wanting to do there? Is he trying to just send? Is he wanting to play like a movie from his
just
phone?
using it for content.
Yeah, sounds like he doesn't want video. He just wants audio. I mean, there's other ways to do that. Use AirPlay.
Compression.
If it has AirPlay, he's got an older AVR.
Yeah, but you can get what is an Apple TV, $150 now. Like it's worth every penny.
And the previous generation are dropped down even less than that. If you, the only thing you're losing is HDMI 2.1, which a lot of people wouldn't even care about, really.
No, stinking way. Look at this, guys. It was a 24-inch tube TV.
No, that's Bruce Barnes saying that. Wasn't Bruce Barnes the comment?
Oh man, I didn't see that. Bruce, you dog. you got me, man. I was like, what? Like, that's a pretty big stretch, dude. That's gonna be crazy. Bruce, you got me, man. I wasn't even paying attention. I just saw the comment. Gene Spicer says, sure did get a bit of poop on your last Kaleidoscape video. I found it really informative. Haters going to be hating, I guess. So just dropped a video earlier today, just walking you through on how to set up scripts. I was looking on YouTube. I couldn't find anything. I'm like, man, I'm going to make a video on it. And it's super simple. You log into a computer, go to either the IP address or a web URL. It logs into the Kaleidoscape server. And then you basically click a button to add a step. It says, hey, I want to add a movie. Click that. It shows you your full list of movies. Click that. And you select the scene and hit done. That's it. And then you can drag and drop. And then when on the Kaleidoscape from your phone, you just go down to the third option, the icon, click that, scroll over to scripts, and then whatever you called that script. So you can create one for, you know, like if you've got guests that are coming over, which is the situation I had, you know, you can do one for movies or music or whatever.
I really like that feature, and I used it for tuning my tactile setup. where like one thing in particular, there's a scene in Bohemian Rhapsody with the kick drum, and it's got a real nice steady beat that makes it easy to tune your tactile to. And so what I did is I took like a 1 minute clip and put it on, made a script where it would repeat like 100 times, you know, awesome. Just picked a big number. So it just kept restarting and playing that same scene over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it worth the price of K-Scape all by itself right there.
Yeah. No matter what I do on Kaleidoscape, if I make a video, I mean,
what were they poo-pooing you for?
Just because the normal, it's expensive, it's ridiculous, it's overpriced. And
so why don't people poo-poo on like JVC projectors and stuff?
We do.
Not as much, not nearly as much. Yeah, Kaleidoscape and MadVR probably get the most heat out of all the hi-fi gear I can think of in home theater. Would y'all agree?
What was the second one you said? K-Scape and what?
Like MadVR, like an extreme.
I don't know if I see much. You see hate on MadVR? I see a lot of positive things on that one.
Well, you hear positive things, but the thing is, here's what people say: I could build that. I could build that for $2,000. I'm like, really? Can you? You can build the hardware, but you don't have the software. That's the problem.
Right.
Same thing they say
in the world that can even.
That's what they say with Kaleidoscape too. They're like, but I can build with X amount of hard drives and X amount of terabytes for a fraction of the cost. I get it, but you don't have the software. You don't have the encryption.
Technically speaking, you could build most of these products for pennies on the dollar, but you're paying for the know-how, and there's a lot of cost that goes into this stuff that people don't consider. It's not just the price of the product, right? It's not just the capital cost of whatever it is. You also have to include the company's marketing, the people that work there, their health insurance. I mean, all of this stuff that gets thrown into the price of the product that they are using to generate a profit that they then have to use to pay for all of those costs. So people like to just hyper focus on, oh, well, this is $2,000. Well, sure, you could build a computer, but that doesn't help you when you don't include or think about all of these other things that are included inside of that. And I think people
part of that is probably even support. You know, when you have a product, they've got to support that as well. So,
well, and Ryan brings up a good point. Weirdly, people devalue their own time and knowledge when they say they can do it. So people forget, like, it's your time that you're doing. What is your time worth? And people are like, well, my time is free. Well, no, it's not. You could use that time to be generating other income. So people just, I think, get butthurt about the whole situation and lose themselves. And I think part of it is, I hate to say it, but I think part of it is envy. Right? Maybe you don't have one, so somebody, you don't think they should have one. I'm not saying that's everyone, but I'm saying that.
Ironically, that's why the MadVR is named Envy.
Exactly.
I don't actually know that.
I think you're probably right on that, because if you think about all the guys that complain, if you offered a free one or they won it in a contest, you know, they take it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
there was a guy that told me one time, and dude, he was lying through his teeth. I know it. He basically said, if I got one for free, I wouldn't even take it because I think it's a scam.
I think they have a story about that. It's called like Aesop's Fables and Sour Grapes and all that kind of stuff. We learned about when we were kids.
Yeah. So I mentioned this in my video. I did a video not too long ago about Kaleidoscape, and to me, that's the key. It's a luxury. This is not a product that is marketed for the masses by any means. This is literally for those that have the extra disposable income, that are willing to pay for that convenience, to pay for something that just works. They don't have to figure stuff out. And I have never, like this one guy, he posted, it was kind of funny. He basically was saying, like, you know, he was kind of disappointed that I was promoting such an expensive product. And a lot of people jumped in and they're like, really, dude? Like, you're complaining that he's sharing about an expensive product? You know, I mean, like, but the reality is, you look at my channel and I've got $200 remotes that I'm talking about. We've got inexpensive speakers that I'm talking about. I've got budget-friendly subwoofers that I'm talking about, but also happen to talk about some expensive products too. And what I tried to remind him is that I've got a vast audience that are in a bunch of different tiers, income, disposable income. And some of them just have different needs and different budgets, different desires. And so I'm going to make content, whether it's a home theater tour that's going to meet some people where they're at, talking about budget stuff. I'm going to do some home theater tours that are in the DIY crowd. It's going to meet some of their needs. We're going to do some probably mid-tier, and then we're going to do some uber crazy, ridiculously over the top, expensive home theaters as well. The reality is,
I'm with David here.
Ditto.
Yeah, for real,
Amen.
man. I love it, dude. Yeah. Well, okay, so it's interesting. Gary says, I love seeing the cheap stuff too, but that doesn't sell clicks. Honestly, the expensive stuff doesn't sell clicks. Go look at the Kaleidoscape video. It's got a couple thousand views. It's not like that thing's a banger. YouTube shows me, compared to when I post a video, after about 30 minutes, I get some analytics that says, okay, compared to your most recent 10 videos, just in regards to views, here's where it ranks 1 to 10. So if you post a video and let's say in the first hour you look at it and it says it's 1 out of 10, that means that thing it's killing it compared to your last 10 videos or the last 9 videos. So this video, I just posted it. So it's 5 of 10 right now. So it's kind of just in the middle. It's not mediocre, but it's not like poorly performing, but it's not a banger. It's not killing it. So it's just kind of right in the middle. I think the topic oftentimes determines the amount of views that a video gets more than the price. Yeah, it's hard. I wish I had it figured out, man.
I like this one.
When folks talk about the amount of money I spend on gear, I just remind them it's cheaper than a crack habit. Heck yeah, dude. For sure, man. Yeah. And see, that's cool. But Mid-Bass Maestro says, I prefer budget setups. And that's great. And that's why I try to do a variety of content. But it's funny, is some people, this is the very small minority of my audience, but some people will look at whenever I post something that doesn't fit their needs and their budget and their desires, it's almost like my channel is for them. And they forget that there's a whole nother world. I mean, literally the world are watching my channel, watching my videos, and there are other people that have different needs. And so, I just do my best to meet as many of those needs and provide as much variety of content as possible. Yeah, there you go. See, Scott's on a budget, ready to have a Christie and a Kaleidoscape. It's true. So I love it, man. All right, let's see. Okay, so speaking of, it says got my split system ducted hand. Is that right? System ducted handler? I don't know what that is, but anyway.
Mini split, it sounds like.
Okay. I think he's got more than that. I think it's more than the mini split. Anyway, you got that hung this weekend. Didn't want the wall mount. So a bit more work. So another guy that's just like, he's getting his hands dirty, building it on his spare time. So can't wait to see yours when it's finally set up there. Chris says, today is my 5th anniversary with my lady. Congrats, Chris. Pretty exciting there, brother. We'll be seeing you in a couple months at M-Wave. Speaking of M-Wave, Scott and Kat will be there 46 days. Is it really 46 days? No, you're lying,
when
dude.
I saw that earlier, I had a little mini panic attack. I was like, wow, that's coming up quick.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I just got my hotel yesterday.
I put it on my calendar for tomorrow. I got to get it. Yeah, look at this, man. 46 days, 16 hours, 25 minutes, 42 seconds. Let me see Ryan's face. Let's make it big. Stressing.
Love
Man,
it.
I didn't. In my brain, I'm thinking 2 months out. No, dude. Man, it's coming quick.
Can we change the topic?
Getting heart palpitations.
Either way, it's gonna hit. Chris says, "Well, maybe this talkie talk will cheer me up while there's trouble on Super Earth." so much for sweet, sweet liberty. I love it, man.
Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah.
What crap?
Give us a little. See, I don't think it's that offensive. I don't know why.
I didn't hear about it.
Oh,
But
it's a
here's the
huge
thing: I play
problem.
on the PS5, so
No, the problem is, so how should I start this? So the game is Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 came out February, late January, February, somewhere in that time frame.
mhm.
And in the Steam stuff, it said that you will PSN is required or optional or something like that.
Mhm.
I don't remember exactly what it said. In the Steam store. The problem just came up a couple days ago where Sony and Arrowhead, the developer of Helldivers, announced that PlayStation Network login will be required, I think, starting May 30th. And if you are just buying the game, it was required on May 5th. So today.
Mhm.
It wasn't required before. They
Right.
allowed people that lived in countries that do not support the PlayStation Network to buy the game and play it. And
Okay.
now they're taking it away, right?
Oh.
So it has already happened where multiple people have lost the ability to play a game that they've paid for.
Okay.
The other problem is that historically, Sony has made it optional for you to log in with a PlayStation Network account.
Mhm.
After they announced this, they retroactively went back and changed that document saying it is now required.
Mm.
So people were buying it with the notation saying it was optional, that they
Mhm.
didn't have to do it. And now
Sure.
they're saying it is required. So they're changing the status quo.
Okay. And I can understand you're changing the
Sony
agreement.
has removed over 100 countries from the Steam list and having their ability to buy the game, which I
Mhm.
think means that the game potentially just disappears from their game
List.
list. So it's really made a lot of people mad. Even people that are able to play the game are boycotting it.
Mhm.
They have gotten probably closing in now on 200 or 300,000 negative reviews in the past couple days. They went
Mhm.
from mostly positive or virtually all positive now to
Yeah.
mostly negative. It's the highest currently active game
Yeah.
of negative reviews running right now. I think there's a class action lawsuit that's getting ready to launch in Europe. There's a bunch of other stuff. And I feel really bad for the Arrowhead devs because, I mean, I think a lot of this is Sony.
Mhm. Yeah. A
But
lot
I
of
don't
people.
think they're fully blame free because their main developer came out and said that we knew this was going to happen. We just didn't say anything about it. So it's just really pissed a lot of people off. And rightly so. I mean, this game, I think, potentially had the capability or has set the groundwork for changing what games can be because
Mhm.
it's not PvP, it's all PvE, it's all co-op, and people have a lot of fun with it, and it's changing the
Yeah.
industry. But for them to go back and now do this is just, I think, effectively killed it. We'll see if it can pull a No Man's Sky. I don't know if it will. No Man's Sky now is one of the best rated games after its whole debacle. We'll see if this comes back, but it's
People
been
that
a
bought it
problem.
on, I'm not familiar with Steam, but they buy it on Steam.
Mhm.
Now Sony's saying you can't play it unless you have an account with us.
For people that bought it that are in the US, they have till the 30th.
Mhm.
That's when they're going to require it.
Okay.
Now, if you buy it, you do in the US. But the main problem is they removed a bunch of countries that you could buy from, and people were allowed to buy it from countries that don't have access to the PlayStation Network at
Can they
all.
just use like a VPN to get around that?
There were people that were getting banned for the VPN stuff. Like China
Mm.
doesn't have access to PlayStation Network, and people were getting banned from the network for
Mhm.
trying to use a VPN.
Mm.
And then in
Yeah.
certain countries, you have to have a PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 to even be able to get a PlayStation account. So
Right.
now you're behind a paywall, and if you don't have one, you're just kind of screwed.
Well, is it behind the monthly multiplayer paywall for Sony too, or is that not part
No,
of
it's
this?
not. The thing isn't the money, it's the changing of the terms of service, right? Well, yeah. And the potential for a lot of people just to lose the ability to play. So, like, yeah, I could play, but it still really irritates me with that mindset that the business is doing. 'Cause it's all about money. That's what it's about. They want your data.
It's a crazy fun game though. If you guys haven't played, if you're into video games, pretty
Oh,
cool.
it's tons of fun, but
People are getting the shaft though, so that's unfortunate.
Steam is allowing refunds though for people that have hundreds of hours into the game because Sony's violating what they said the game was originally, which is sad.
I love it. Ryan said, Scott says, we got the Princess Suite and the Jungle Suite ready for Youthman and Ryan to come in a few days. So basically, when I went there last year, I got to sleep in their daughter's room. They kicked her out. And I think she slept with them. But it's literally a princess room. It's all pink and stuff. So it was really cozy. So Ryan, I guess they got a jungle room for you, man. Maybe that's I don't know. I haven't seen that one. Thematic rooms, man. Let's see what else we got here. Justin says, hey guys, I'd love your thoughts. I'm considering a DefTech D15 or cheaper used PSB Imagine T speakers. Would they be somewhat similar, or would D15s be worth the extra cost? Thanks. So we're comparing. Jonathan, can you pull up the database?
Those won't be on database.
These are speakers.
So.
Yeah, they're speakers.
Oh, I was thinking the D15 was like a 15-inch subwoofer.
No,
it's a tower speaker
with active 15s, if I remember right.
Okay,
I don't think I would buy DefTechs.
They're a different type of speaker for sure.
Justin, if you're still here, do you like the DefTech sound? It's subjective. This is my subjective opinion. They are bidirectional. Like a Martin Logan electrostatic, except it's not a Martin Logan electrostatic. So I'd want to know why those speakers.
Well, I'm looking at a review at Audioholics. They roll off at like 35 hertz, maybe 37 hertz, something like that from the chart. So even if they've got big drivers in them, they're not playing true subwoofer range.
Even with the D15.
Yeah, I mean it rolls off at 37, 39 hertz according to their graph.
I mean, it's all power.
Yeah, it's a big speaker.
No, if it doesn't have the power, it ain't gonna get low.
It's more than that. Here, I'll share my screen.
So it's not a 15. It says it's got dual.
Justin says big sale on them. Had to edition where I live.
Do you see this? There's a 15 on the side.
Okay.
And then here, the frequency response, this is to 200 hertz, so that's not really what we're after. This is the full range frequency response. Here's 40 hertz where my mouse is, if we can see my mouse moving. Rolling off pretty hard. So that's a port tuning choice. The D15s have fairly flat response down to just below 40 hertz. Definitive technology specs, the response of these speakers is 39 to 24 kilohertz. So they're not even trying to say it goes lower than that, 39 to 24 kilohertz.
Yeah.
So that's curious to me, because that'll all be about port tune and driver choice, and they're not using that big. If it's got a 15-inch, that doesn't even look like a 15-inch driver, but if it is a 15-inch driver, it doesn't dig that deep.
I just think you create more problems than it's worth trying to deal with. I mean, a bidirectional speaker, are those bidirectional?
I'm looking at. I don't see any speakers on the back.
It doesn't look like there's on the back.
Maybe they're not.
Yeah, this is just it's not their typical definitive technology kind of
style. I don't think that's a 15-inch driver either by looking at it. Where's it list the driver specs on it?
I'm trying to find the specs on this Joker. What's included?
MSRP is like $4,000 on them. That's
a pair.
It's got to be a pair because
yeah, 4,000 a pair. Here you go.
Here's the crazy thing: Adorama's got them for $417.
What? $417?
$417. They're saying new $699. So open box, but still, I take an open box for. I mean, That's a big difference. Here's what's getting me. I'm looking at the website. Let me share it real quick.
Sure.
Or one of
I
the,
still haven't even found the driver's size. I'm
here,
curious.
I'll leave yours up there because I can just say
There it
this.
is. 8-inch passive radiators on both sides of the speaker. So they're not what we're thinking. They're not like the naming scheme would make you think it's a 15-inch subwoofer.
Right.
It's not. It's got
Well, then what
dual
if that's an 8-inch? What are they using? 5s on the front?
5 1/4s, maybe.
Maybe 6.5, but it almost looks like 5 1/4s. I'm still like, I'm dying. I can't find anything.
We got people saying bad things in the comment. Mid-Bass Maestro said, Jonathan said Ryan's setup won't bump. I said no such thing. I didn't have anything
What?
to do with that. I don't know. I think they're causing seeds of discontent. I didn't say that.
Here's the crazy thing. The continuous RMS power. Now, I don't know how accurate this is, but on Best Buy, it says continuous RMS 40 watts.
No, please no.
That's what it says.
Pull that up if you will.
I'm dead serious. Unless that's a typo. Let me see. I'll share my screen. Now, this is just on Best Buy.
That's right.
40 watts.
I'm like, what? Yeah, right here. Look at there. Continuous. Now, again, this could be a typo. It's Best Buy. It's not Definitive Technologies.
That's got to be a typo. Surely it means 400 watts. Or we're talking white van special here if it's only 40.
You can buy them off Amazon for $700 too.
Okay, so definitely a lot cheaper than going through Best Buy. Don't do that. That would be, yeah, I'm trying to find the actual specs here. I'm looking on. Okay, so these are 3 5 1/4-inch drivers on the front.
You nailed that one.
1 inch. Yeah, it's only 6.5 inches wide as far as the cabinets. So really, really narrow cabinets. Looking here. Man, I'm just really curious if that is correct on the wattage because
Crutchfield says power range 30 to 300.
Okay, maybe I don't know. Where are they getting 40? I guess 40 is in between 30 and 300. Good golly, yeah. So I don't know, boss.
We were completely unhelpful to this person.
Yeah.
What would you guys do for $700 though? What would the direction you would go?
$700.
I want to know what you guys would do.
700 a piece or
700 piece.
700. So $1,400.
Mm-hmm.
What would you go with?
I'm going pro audio. We already had that conversation. I can get $200 or $300 reference speakers in the pro audio world.
I mean, the reality is, used market, you're going to get a killer deal for that. Man, I'm trying to think. $1,400. Sadly, there's not a ton of. There's still options out there. Yeah. So 700 a piece is good used. Power sound audio DIY.
I would do bookshelves with a sub.
Which bookshelves? All the bookshelves.
All the bookshelves.
Get some ELACs. Those are affordable.
A
lot of guys like those.
I like ELACs. The ones I've heard at Expona.
Like, what could you do?
I got to confront this lie right here. This is not true. I'll just put that there. Throw that out there.
Which one? Yeah.
You have a more tolerant wife than a lot of us do. Okay. I can't talk. My black swans are in the living room, so my wife is very tolerant.
For sure.
I'd probably do like Martin Logan B10s if I was buying new.
Mm-hmm.
The B100s are just above that, so that's where I'd like to be. Would be B100s with a sub.
But can you get that with a sub for that price?
I'm not including a sub in that. I'm just saying the speakers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. True. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because he was asking about.
Yeah. What else would I do? Anything?
There's
there's
trying to look up the price, but I really was impressed with those SVS for their price. What is it, the Prime or Ultra? I can't remember.
The new series or the older series?
The ones I heard last year at
Ultras,
M-Wave. So it would have been the older ones.
So they had Prime Pinnacle Towers, and then they were using the Ultra Center.
Yeah.
No, we had the ultras in the speaker comparison room.
Oh, okay, right. The bookshelves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for a value, like I was pretty impressed with those value wise.
Definitely an option.
I'm
MW Youthman, from the Alcon's audio demo, how would you compare them to your JTRs? Man, this is always a tough question for me because what he's asking is, I heard the Alcon's audio at CEDIA last year. So it's in another state, in another room, completely different acoustics. They were crystal clear. They had massive subwoofers in the room. In the back, I think there was probably 4 18s or something like that, maybe even more. I mean, I enjoyed them. Now they had them playing a little bit louder than I would have liked. They were cranking in that room. But I mean, it's always hard for me to compare like what specifically that I hear. And I know there's some guys out there that they claim that they can review a speaker from a year ago and be able to intricately tell you how this one compares. That is not me. I'm sorry.
What's
I
the
wish I
price
could.
range on those Alcons?
I don't know what they run.
A lot.
They're not cheap, but I'm not even sure they have. Is that pretty much a dealer solution? Or
Yes.
does they? Okay. So you may not even be able to find out much on there. And I don't even know what series they were running. I have to go back and look at that video. But they were great speakers. I mean, I didn't walk away going, oh man, that kind of sucked. No, it was a really great experience. They had it paired with a Christie projector.
Yeah, and the other thing with Alcons is you need their amps.
Mm-hmm.
DSP is a thing.
Yeah.
For those speakers.
So all the crossover work's done in the amplifier section. Gotcha.
Well, you could do that technically with any of them, but
that's the way they prefer to be run.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I've got nothing negative to say about them for sure. It was a great system, but as far as specifically, like how do they compare? I wish I could tell you, man. I wish I could articulate even what I hear sometimes. Mark says, Youthman, are you holding down your script with an expensive potential brick? K? Talk later. I have y'all know what he's even saying.
I think he's okay. I'm going to try to decrypt this.
Yeah.
So K is Kaleidoscape, and that the potential brick. I'm guessing if they go out of business, and you were doing a script video. So
oh, look at this,
man! I feel like a detective.
Clever. Very nice, Rusty.
And that's one of the.
That's my contribution tonight. Good night, fellas.
Peace out, man. Oh goodness.
Can I answer a question that's kind of on the topic here?
Yeah, hit it.
So this gentleman was asking, what do you recommend in the Pro Audio spectrum in EU or Denmark? Okay. There's a guy on AVS forum that has Wharfdale Titans, the 8-inch variety, and he's got them every matching position, and he's really talking them up. And Wharfdale makes a good speaker in general. Those are usually available overseas like that. So look those up and see what you think. And the guy on the forum, if you want to reach out to him and get some feedback from him directly, is I'm not going to try to say his name because I don't know how it's said, but it's NITERIDA. And if you find him on AVS forum by username, he's got a lot of posts on him and really likes them. So that's an option for you.
Sweet. Bo, appreciate the $4 super chat, $5 super chat. He says, worth upgrading AVR for Dirac. Have an old Denon 6200, 2 sub outs, XT32, no Odyssey app for a 7.2.4. Is XT32 good enough? Maybe use a mini DSP with REW versus Dirac. Man, lots of questions there, lots of options for sure. So if he's got an older AVR, is it worth upgrading that AVR to? I'm gonna look up what is 6200 because to me, the codecs that it supports would be a bigger issue to me. Let me see, Denon 6200. I'm assuming that's Denon, right? Yeah. It's not an old. Here, let me pull it up. Okay, it is older. It's archived. So it's a 9.2. Sorry, it's 11.2 channel. Yeah, so it probably has. It's got 9 channels of amplification. 11 channels of processing. So this would be a pre-Dolby Atmos AVR. It's got DTS HD master. That's the biggest thing. Is like if it doesn't have at least those high definition, like HD, or I'm sorry, DTS HD master. What was the other one? Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting. Dolby True HD. That was the other high. That was kind of like our first high definition codecs. If it didn't at least have that, I would be like, absolutely, you really need to move up to a new AVR. The newer AVRs are gonna, offer things like Aural 3D, DT.
Bo says it can do Atmos.
You're right. Actually, I see it right down here. It does say Atmos. Yeah, so it's not like a super old. Man, I don't know if you're gonna really like hear a massive difference.
I would not use a Dolby or a mini DSP for anything but subs, though. I think it's gonna bring in too much noise.
Do you think
the noise floor is gonna come up too much?
Do you think there's too much hype around a particular room correction software? And I'm not saying just Dirac, but you hear this a lot in the forums and in the Facebook groups. Are like, man, I got this AVR and finally got Dirac, or I finally got Arc, or I finally got Room Perfect, or whatever it is. And they're like, man, I was blown away.
I think a big part of that is people don't do the comparisons correctly. I mean, we see that time and time again. If you ask people at M-Wave, there were favorites. It was usually how the bass was handled and what the low frequency was doing.
Was there any of them that were like, oh my gosh?
So here's the problem, I think, with a lot of comparisons that are done, especially comparing Room EQ, and we're guilty of this too. And Jonathan, you and I saw this when we did the Trinov and Storm demo comparison. When you start trying to compare multi-channel, it gets way more difficult to be able to differentiate differences. Like you can, but they don't stand out nearly as much. When you're in 2-channel, it's really easy to be able to identify, especially during our comparison, what one was doing versus another. Not exactly how it was doing it, but you could tell what it was doing in the audio. So I think a big part of what people perceive is based on their biases on how they're running their own comparisons. They do them sighted. They potentially aren't level matching. They're running one, unhooking everything, putting everything back in, and just
30 minutes
depending on their memory to be able to do it. And it's just, you're setting yourself up for bias in those situations, and it's not worth it. In a multi-channel environment, I think you're able to get away with a lot more, and not potentially able to figure out what exactly is going on. Another recent comparison was, Jonathan, you did the what was it, multi-channel bass or the surround bass? And as you add more channels and stuff, you just get overwhelmed, and it becomes difficult to isolate all of these different intricacies because you can't process all of this at the same time. But if you do something in 2-channel, right, it becomes a lot easier because it's more focused. So yes and no.
Because one was like plus 20 dB reference, the other was like negative 10. That was real easy to tell when they were.
That is true. That's another way you're providing a bias, right? You're identifying to your mind what one is what, and then you bias that subconsciously. So,
the Nicholas is talking here about one of those receivers. We were having trouble with the remote, kept turning the volume up. The Apple TV remote was misbehaving, so that was the backstory there.
It did the same thing when we were at Expona, by the way.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Apple remote, actually, huh?
Yeah.
Chris, I appreciate the $10 super chat. I've been smiling reading this comment, and I'll tell you why in a second. So he says, I have 2 Polk RT800 towers. Should I get the monolith 365 center channel? So he's wanting to upgrade his entire system to that 365 series or monoprice, maybe in a few years. So he's saving up. Or should he just get a cheaper Polk center for now and use that? So the reason why I'm smiling, I'm going to bring this up. I'll show you if you're not familiar with this speaker. These were my first set of speakers for home theater. So I worked back in the day at Circuit City. So that tells you how old these speakers are. This was I had the whole matching center channel. I loved that system at the time. Really, really enjoyed that system. You can see down at the bottom, it's got downfiring, the ports at the bottom had a little flare. Cool little system, but that just brought back so many memories, man, because that was my setup for, I don't know, man, probably the first 5 years. But so the question is should he take these speakers and add a totally different, I've got the mono price here, totally different center channel, probably a totally different sound signature. You can see we got a soft dome tweeter here. The other one has, I believe, a titanium tweeter. So that's going to be a quite a bit different sound signature. So should he add this or just get a matching, because he can get a used Polk for probably next to nothing on the used market. Probably under $100, I would think. Even the matching one, if you can find it. So what are your thoughts there? Should he get I'm sorry. I'm hiding Jonathan down there.
I think he was talking about upgrading his speakers later too, right? So this was
he wants to go right. So he wants to go towards this mono price series.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe have that whole system, but it's going to take him a while to get there. He's saying a few years. So in the meantime, should he go ahead and buy that center channel, and then as funds become available, replace the towers with the mono price, and then add his surrounds and subwoofer and all that? Or should he just buy a kind of a matching, cheap, inexpensive center channel for that Polk system? Because it's probably 20 years old. Man, I bet is it 20?
So for context, Chris says he lives in an apartment and doesn't listen very loud, and he won't be upgrading to a full monolith system until he buys his own house.
Okay, so it might be several years down the road. So he's just trying to figure out, would that be a good idea to do that? I know guys that have mix matched what we call Frankenstein home theaters, and with Room EQ does a decent job at trying to match those up. Or would
I wouldn't do
off
anything.
Just leave it as 2-channel with a phantom center?
In the apartment, I would leave it that way. My worry with doing this and doing incremental upgrades is you bought a center.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you buy it and then don't like it?
See, I don't see how you can not like having a dedicated center.
No. That center, like the 365. I'm not saying you wouldn't like a center. I'm saying if you're going to buy something and you're going to use it now,
yeah,
I would. And you're not going to buy the rest until you have your own house.
Mm-hmm.
I would wait.
Just
try and find a super cheap matching center for those Polks if you're going to do anything, and then
that's what he was asking.
Evaluate when the time comes.
You cracked me up. You're like, I wouldn't do anything. Buy that matching center channel.
Well, if you're going to buy it super cheap for like 10 or 15 bucks,
I really think he can get that matching center channel for next to nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can find it used on the market.
If you can't do that, I would just run Phantom Center. Because
I believe the matching was the Polk Audio CS350, I think is what I had. No, that's the big Mama Jama. Maybe I had a 300 because that one had 4 drivers. I don't think it was that one either. Yeah, I think it was that CS300. Look for that model number, CS300. See if you can find it like on eBay. Let's stand real quick here. Polk Audio CS300. Let's see if there's anything on eBay for you. Yeah, so there's one on. Oh, that's a 175. Sorry, I was like, man, that's $38. Buy it.
110.
$110. Yeah, $35 shipping. So you're talking $150 out of pocket. Boom, the most amazing center channel this guy's ever seen. Is what his ad says. That's not serious. Check this out, man. Just go to.
There's one right below it too. That's 55 with $50 shipping, so it'd be a little cheaper, perhaps. Yeah, it looks like you can get those though. You got options.
Yeah. I mean, look here. So, but this would be the model number that I would look at. This is the matching center channel to that. You've got the identical tweeter, identical drivers. Well, no, I think, yeah, I think all of them had the 6.5-inch drivers. Man, this was so long ago. This is down in Wisconsin. Cost you $34 shipping.
So when you see a CS 400, is that like a different model altogether? Or is that just the better product? Because I see
CS
those
400, I think, was the big white one. That one had Polk audio. That one had, I think, no, I'm thinking of something different then. So yeah, that's just the bigger one. That's the
if
big
it's the
mama
same
gun.
line and it's just bigger
Yeah.
drivers, then do that one.
Yeah, so that's going to be the same thing. There's probably specs down here. Okay, so this has 6.5 or 6-inch drivers. I bet that other one has 5-inch drivers. 5.25. Trying to see here. Let me scroll down real quick.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so
Nicholas
yeah,
points out in the
5
comments.
Yeah, so that's really the only difference. They're 5.5-inch drivers versus 6.5 or 6 drivers.
12 months he'll have JTR speakers.
Yeah. Nicholas said that'll make you catch the upgrade bug. I agree. Those center channels with that MTM, they're generally not very good, just frankly.
Yeah.
But it will match what you have, and if you're not turning up that loud in the apartment, it'll probably be fine. It's when you turn them up loud that they get really bad, or if you're sitting off axis and stuff that they get bad.
But if it's
Yeah.
just him,
If it's just at him on
or maybe
axis,
one
then
other
it's
person,
probably
I don't even
fine.
think it's worth it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Tyler says, if you got your eye on Monolith, be patient. They run stupid sales every now and then. He got 5 365 TS for $220 a piece, brand new last year.
They do 15% off sales on Black Friday area usually, right? So that's something that you can consider if you're not in a hurry.
Sure. So maybe save up the money, put it aside for that big deal. Yeah. All right, let's pop back over here. But yeah, Chris, I'm like I said, I just got excited when I saw that because that brought back memories, man. My home theater journey. I love it. Drew, appreciate the $10 super chat. Curious for those that have 9.x.6 layouts, get any weird results with Atmos. Concerned that it is less effective in rendering most Atmos material than 7.2.4. This is a topic that we brought up a couple times. Jonathan, you've had some personal experience that you've shared on the channel.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, guys?
I have a list of tracks that are showcasing exactly what we're talking about. In some of the Atmos music from like spatial audio considerations, if it's not truly 9.x.6, it'll be 9.x.2. And those speakers are hardwired as a 0.2. And if you have a 6-layer system, it puts it in the middle row. So it puts them in these, and your front and your rear tops are silent. So your top fronts and your top rears are silent. It's just right here. Yeah. Well, that throws my soundstage back because now my ceiling channel, here's my main seats. Now my ceiling channels, the only ones that are on are right here. And if you have your receiver configured, and this might not be true universally, but for Denon and Marantz products, it absolutely is. And I've done a lot of testing with it. If I have this configured to a 9.4 configuration and it's a press track, that same track, and there's movies and music that are pressed like that, it'll activate the 4 speakers that if I make these my activated speakers here, that's right centered over I'm in the way here. That's right centered over my seats. And so these are just basically imaging directly down to my seats, and that works great. So absolutely, if your middle row of speakers, your top middle isn't basically in a perfect position, and I think there are bad results from 9.1.6. I've noticed that. And for that reason, I have 2 different configurations. I do speaker A and speaker B. And one of my configurations is 9.1.4. If I'm just in my room by myself, that's almost universally better. And if I have both rows playing, then I'll put it in 9.1.6 and just kind of try to avoid those press tracks, or at least know that it's there and what happens when it's there. I honestly believe in my room, and I'm probably could get away with just going back down to 9.1.4 and getting rid of those over here, get rid of those speakers, because they're not doing a whole lot in my room with my speaker layout. I was kind of disappointed to find that out, and increasingly find that out over the course of time. Like, it's not a casual observation I make once in a while. Right. It's an observation I make pretty frequently when I'm listening to spatial audio. And an example, Ready Player One, everybody talks about how great the Atmos is in that track. That's a press track. If you play it with a 9.6 system, you only get overhead audio in this set of speakers. That's it.
Hmm.
If you don't observe that in your system with a 9.x.6,
Yeah.
then good for you, but it's there, and I can tell in mine. I mean, I can tell that's clearly only in that one set of speakers. So it's, like you run into it more often than you'd think.
Ryan, are you doing 6 in yours?
Yeah.
And then Rusty, you have 4 or 6 in yours.
4.
I'm running.
I'll be able to change though on the fly.
Okay. Interesting to see if you hear anything different than what Jonathan's hearing. His.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how maybe the other processors handle it differently, but Den and Marantz that's the way it works.
Not so great.
No question.
Okay.
So if if it's a full true object-based mix, all 6 of them will activate. That's great when that happens. It doesn't sound like it moves my soundstage behind me at all.
Right.
And on spatial audio, there's some tracks that are all using all 6, and there's some that are just using that middle row. It's all depending on how the audio engineer mixed the track. And it doesn't show any different on the receiver. They all say Dolby Atmos on the receiver. You don't know unless you just observe that it sounds that way. And some of it's blatantly, obviously, it sounds that way. Some of the Billie Eilish, however you say her last name, some of those tracks, they're 9.1.2 pressed. And those in her tracks, the ceilings are very active. So when it's only in that middle row, it's super obvious that that's doing that.
So how do you tell if it's pressed or if it's object based, if it doesn't show different in a receiver?
It's a good question. If you have some of those, like there's a thread on AVS forum, and there's some guys on YouTube doing videos where they're running through software and showing where the objects are and which channels are active, and you can go look that up. But as far as like with an off the shelf product like a Den and Marantz, you don't know except for to listen. Like there's no menu to show that kind of stuff. You just have to
now
observe.
you know how on the front of it shows you which speakers are active?
They all show active. When there's press content, it'll show like all the speakers are active, but there won't be anything coming out of them.
Right.
Yeah. So someone's saying in the comment, Trinoff has an object viewer. Storm does as well.
Right.
So those are nice with those boutique products to kind of be able to see what you're getting.
See, I thought that was the whole point of the Atmos label, was to say, I thought if it said Atmos, that meant it was object based. Or is there some other designation? But I thought
not
that
all
was
of
like,
the Atmos channels are object based.
Yeah, they can use pressed. Like Disney for a long time, a lot of their stuff, the majority of their stuff for a long time was pressed, where it was, you're still getting ceiling, but it only had like, it was pretending basically to be like a press track. Like your bed tracks are basically pressed. They were pressing the ceiling tracks into just 2 speakers. And so there were no true objects. It wasn't really using object. It was using like a pressed mannerism. Or if there were, maybe the right way to say this probably more accurately is that there were objects, but there were just 2 of them and they were static. And that was the way they were handling the ceiling content. So like if you know how objects can move all over the room, right? And that's what the Atmos is doing. Well, if you just fix your 2 objects for your ceiling content in the middle, then they don't move. Then they're acting like press tracks. I think that's the real definition of what's happening.
Cool. Hang on a second. I'm just looking up something real quick for another question. All right, let me pop back in here. Hi, Finest. Appreciate the $10 super chat. Any of you heard Coastal Source system for outdoors? Is it worth the premium? Youthman, how are your sub 12X subs from OSD holding up? Really can't beat the value, but only 2-year warranty from OSD. Cheers. So great question here. So I indeed did hear a Coastal Source system. I'll just show you just the title of it if you want to search for it on YouTube. It's called Can High Fidelity Speakers Be Designed for Outdoors? But if you just search for Youthman Coastal Source, dude, these things are pretty stinking incredible. I want to get to these right here, have a 15-inch driver in them outdoors. And I mean, we're like in the middle of downtown at Audio Vice. And oh my goodness, man. Okay, so here's 3 of them right here. So check that out. Pretty cool little speakers, man. Phenomenal speakers. Now, are they worth it? You got to determine that. If I remember correctly, the biggest towers, I think I remember them saying it was like 10 grand a pair. So they're not cheap for sure.
Oh, they go way more than that.
Are they? But they use kind of like this little.
So rotomold, you may be familiar with.
See that right there?
Cooler.
I mean, that's what's in the front of them. Lots of tweeters, lots of mid-range drivers. really great. I mean, definitely by far blows any outdoor, speakers that I've ever heard out of the water, for sure. But they're definitely pricey. Compare that to mono price, they don't compare. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Mono price is very value centered. Are my sub 12? They're still rocking. I hadn't had a bit of problems with any of the speakers. I've got 4 rock speakers. I did an entire series on them. I've got 2 12-inch burial subwoofers, 8 wall-mounted speakers, but they're definitely just kind of, they're good sounding speakers, if that makes sense. They're not going to be like, oh wow, this is amazing kind of thing. They're definitely, they're a value centered product, if that makes sense, for their outdoor speakers.
Hey guys, I gotta take off for now.
Yeah, man, have a good one. I had previously I had a pair of clips. Oh man, they were like from their, not cinema series, but they were commercial outdoor speakers. And when I swapped them out, it wasn't an upgrade. It wasn't a downgrade. That is anything. But I wasn't like blown away by the clips. I wasn't blown away by the OSD. They're just a good value. But I haven't heard a lot of outdoor speakers, but that was one system I walked away going, dang, if I had the money, heck yeah, absolutely would put that outside. But they're pricey, but they have different sizes. You can get the small ones. You can even bury them up to, you saw like there's a little ring around the kind of like near the top. You can bury it all the way up to that little ring because that's where the sound's coming out. So if you ever get a chance to hear them, definitely. They were at Cedia. They were at Audio Vice Live. I think that's the only 2 places I've heard them. So, but yeah, as far as the warranty, I haven't had any issues with any of the gear, any of the speakers from OSD. Hulk thing, good to see you, man. $5 super chat, appreciate that. Hello, everyone. Would you recommend Integra DRX 5.4 receiver to power JTR speakers? Man, you don't hear a whole lot about Integra.
Integra is Onkyo's premier line.
Like flagship. Yeah, it's like the Lexus of Toyota. DRX 5.4. I'm just not familiar with that. DRX. Just see what the specs are on that. So that's a 9.2 channel, $2,200 receiver, Dolby Atmos, 120 watts per channel. Yeah, you're not going to have any problems driving it with an AVR at 120 watts. Now, here's the thing. JTR, like, I think my speakers can, I don't know, they're rated for something stupid, like 2,000 watts continuous. I just can't see throwing that much at them. I've got a dedicated amplifier. But yeah, they're just super efficient. The JTRs are over 100 dB with 1 watt. So even if you're running the entire, all, let's say 9 or 10 or 11, whatever speakers you've got connected to that AVR, it's a 9.2. So even if you got all 9 speakers, you're definitely not getting 120 watts per channel. That's typically, that's only with 2 channels driven. So by the time you add all 9, you might be running 45 watts a channel, 55 watts a channel, something like that. But you're still, I mean, again, at 1 watt, you're getting 100 and something dB, 2 watts, 103 dB kind of thing. So I don't see you. Let me look here. Does that have pre-outs? Because if it's got pre-outs, you could always run it. And then if you feel like it's running out of gas or just sounds strained, and it also depends on how big is your room, how loud do you listen. Just trying to see if it's got pre-outs. Let me know in the chat if it's got pre-outs. You probably know quicker than I can find
it. Uses Dirac as an option. So It's got the base Dirac for free. 11.2 channel pre-outs, it says. So yes, it has pre-outs.
Cool. So, I mean, I think it'd be a safe bet to go with it. And like I said, down the road, you can always add a 3-channel amplifier just to power your front soundstage, or get a 5-channel, use the internal amplification to power your surrounds and Atmos. So what are you guys' thoughts on that? That's my opinion anyway.
I have no problem with Onkyo products, and Integra is basically the same thing. And it has all the bells and whistles of anything else, but I would kind of question at that price point, if you're talking $2,200, you're getting into Denon and Marantz territory too.
Mhm.
And again, I don't have a problem with Onkyo or Integra, but I would probably put them one tier down from Denon and Marantz, both in benchmarks and in just like reliability and that kind of stuff. So,
All right.
you know, consider that perhaps. And not a large step down. I'm not throwing any shade at Onkyo and Integra. I like their products. I just think Denon and Marantz are pretty much the front runners generally.
I don't know, have any familiarity with that product, so
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I've never heard an Integra. I've owned Onkyo in the past, back in the day when they were real popular, because they were the leader for a long time.
They
even
were
more so than Denon and Marantz. And then what I think changed is when they got away from Odyssey and they went with their own room correction. Everybody just like, no thanks.
Well, and they had that reliability issue for a while with HDMI boards
the
cutting out.
HDMI
That
boards,
really
you're
hurt
right.
them a lot.
You're right.
They had a reputation for, they kind of were like a come upper, right? Denon owned the field 20 years ago, and then Onkyo chewed away because they put super powerful amp sections in there. Like the SR805 years ago was like an amazing processor, most powerful amplifier ever in an AVR type thing. And then they had THX Ultra rates. They kind of started to like cut corners on costs a little bit. They went down to THX Select from going Ultra. The amp sections got a little cheaper. Then they started having reliability issues because they started cutting out a little bit of like the soldering was bad on the boards, frankly. And they suffered that for a couple of years. Then they came back and they've come back pretty strong. But I don't know that they still enjoy the same pedigree that Denon currently has right now. So, you know, like Michael's saying, they flip-flop back and forth, but I don't think they're the top right now.
All right, let's jump through here. Bobby, appreciate the $10 super chat. Can't wait till June. My first M Wave of many more to come. Is there any word on Sony upgrading their projectors this year? Come on, spill the beans, Ryan and Michael. Ryan left after he saw that comment, so that tells. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. No, I can promise you. So here's the thing. Sometimes we have to sign NDA, non-disclosure agreements. I haven't signed any kind of NDA with Sony, so I have no idea if they're coming up with anything or when they're coming up. JVC, I knew about a month ago when they were talking about bringing up this new 800 series, 900 series. But I couldn't say anything, you know, because I was under NDA until the embargo date. But I haven't heard anything about Sony or Epson. But both of those, I would imagine, this is just a total guess, I would imagine they got to be having, you know, something pretty close in the works. If I had to guess, a lot of these companies announce them at CEDIA. But again, I haven't heard anything from Sony on that or Epson. So, but I don't know.
Epson was almost 6 months out after JVC last time, right? Maybe 5 months, something like that.
Yeah, they all, I mean, remember 3 years ago at M-Wave, they all hit about the same time.
Not really, because
Well, but I mean,
JVC had released in the fall before M-Wave, and Epson had released just right near M-Wave. You guys got one of the first Epsons out on the in the live.
But what I'm saying is in like a year period, maybe even a 6-month period.
I mean, I think it's fair to say 6 months after was Epson.
Okay.
But I say that to say this: JVC normally announces their products in the fall, and these two are early. And I think I saw Mike Garrett post on ABS forum that these are almost like 4 or 5 months early. So if they kept the normal timetables, then you're probably looking at almost a year
next year possibly.
Before Epson will have their. I don't know if they're keeping their timetable or not, but from all accounts, the LS 12,000 is selling really well. So, you know, they don't necessarily want to cut into their own.
Well, but the NZ7, NZ8, NZ9 selling really well too.
I don't know about that. And I say that because they keep lowering their prices. If they were selling like hotcakes, Michael, they wouldn't have dropped prices 2 or 3 times already, and they have.
But think about this: they dropped them when they were getting close to announcing the new ones.
No, they didn't.
No,
they dropped it $1,000 a year in, and they dropped it another $1,000 6 months after that, and they put a rebate on top of that, like a third time. They've dropped it along the way, which to me, the only reason you do that is because they're not selling like hotcakes. So this is an outside. This is an outside look in. I mean, I don't have any insider information on it. But I don't know why you drop prices, especially when, you know, they jacked the prices up this generation, right? Everyone was saying like, this is a lot more money. And then they kind of brought them back down. Like right now, you can buy NZ7 for like $8,000 brand new.
Mhm.
They were 11,000 to start, so that's a drop of $3,000. And just the way the world spins, you
Yeah.
don't drop a product $3,000 unless it's not selling.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so MW says where I am, there was a price increase, not down. Uh-oh. Ike's trying to spill the tea here, folks. He says we're
Sony
about to get
refresh?
a Sony refresh. He's guessing. Maybe JVC pulled the refresh because Sony has something in the work. But here's the thing, they don't know what each other's doing. I mean, I'm telling you, they keep this stuff so close to the chest. You know, they really don't let it get out there until last minute. And then I had to sign up. Put it this way, I had an agreement with them to not share. I mean, you can't share anything with anybody, period. I couldn't share it with Ryan. I couldn't share it with these guys. Can't share it with nobody. But I also wanted to talk to Audio Device. And so I reached out to JVC and said, hey, am I able to talk to them if you've already talked to them? And they were like, well, we can't tell you if we talk to them. You know, it's that kind of thing. It's like this real top secret thing. But they had to go to their lawyers, rewrite the NDA so that I could talk to Audio Advice. So it's that kind of thing. I mean, they are really, really serious about this stuff. And I take that really, really serious too. So when I sign an NDA, man, my wife, well, of course, Jessica could care less, but I was about to say my wife doesn't even know, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, so I hope they come out with something. You know, I hope Epson comes out with something because that only benefits us as consumers. You know, I'm all for there being, and I really hope that Sony begins to work on like their black levels. I would love to see competition in that space. Right now, JVC is killing everybody in black levels, other than like a Christie, you know. So man, I would love to see them step up and go, you know what, we're gonna get some deeper black levels on this because they do some great things, and Epson has some great things. You know, they do motion handling a lot better. But
this kind of comment always is interesting. Samsung coming out with a projector cheaper and better than JVC's.
yeah,
I believe that when I see it. There's no chance in my mind on that.
yeah.
And the only thing I've seen from Samsung is those lifestyle projectors, you know, like the little kind of odd shaped ones that are meant for being portable. Have you guys seen anything different than that? Samsung
does make an ultra short throw. So I haven't reviewed one, but UST, let's see, it's about $6,000. And that one is called the LSP9T. It's a tri-laser ultra short throw projector. So they could be working on one. Don't know. I hadn't heard anything. All right, let's keep moving along here. But yeah, man, Bobby, I'm glad you're coming to M-Wave. Super pumped about that. And I'll throw this one up here too. K for Constant. He's pumped for his first M-Wave. Would love to have all you guys come out and join us. Oh, not that one. Where's it at? So I'll just put this up here. June 21st through the 23rd. We're talking like 46 days away. It's happening. So all the details. Man, I keep hitting the wrong. What did I do? I know what I did. I drugged there we go. So all the details on the website. Heck yeah, man. I think I just saw another super chat saying, hey, I'm just going to bring this one up because it's the same thing. $10 super chat. Looking forward to my first M-Wave event. Already purchased my flight and tickets, booked a hotel room 2 blocks away from the convention center. Should be a really good trip and a great experience. Man, we're so grateful you're coming. Let me know in the chat, where are you coming from? Just out of curiosity, because we've got folks flying in all over, literally the world, from the UK, Brazil, Hawaii, a bunch of folks from Canada coming. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, let me know in the comments where you're at. Coming from New Jersey. Awesome, man. Oh, that's somebody different. Chuck, you cracked me up, man. It's funny. I see the North Virginia, Ben. Now everybody's saying, hey, I'm coming from here. Well, that's cool. Yeah, let me know if you're coming M-Wave. Okay, great question here. And I'm going to come back to some of the super chats. Tarhoya says, is JVC bringing the new projectors to M-Wave? They would like, this was my understanding. They would like to bring one. There's no guarantee. It really, a lot of times it depends on if they have stock available to bring it. So, but I'd love for them to bring, I mean, it only benefits them to bring the latest, greatest, so either the NZ 800 or the NZ 900 is probably what they'll end up trying to bring. And that'll be demonstrated in their room. So
Are those
yeah.
actually available right now, or are they being released later?
So they're being shipped in June. Just kind of, and I don't know what that means. If that means general population, if that's being shipped to things like Audio Advice and Crutchfield or whoever else sells them. But yeah, so June. Originally they told me May, and I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure. And he's like, you might want to say June. So I changed it to June. Had to go back and edit my video. But yeah, so that would be super cool. But yeah, we got folks coming from Raleigh, got North Virginia. Stitch is coming. It's first year for M-Wave. Come from Kansas City. Chris, you got a long haul, man. That is commitment, bro. I'm telling you. That is commitment. So let's see. Yeah, Ike was there last year. So next month it is. Yeah, coming from Atlanta. You're gonna love it, man. It's gonna be good. Oh yeah, look at this, baby. Rich like, how do you say that?
Rich like poor boy.
Yeah, but what is I'm trying to figure out the Likkle. Rich.
I don't know the reference.
Yeah, I
It's
love
got
that.
a picture there, so maybe is it Richie Rich in the picture?
I'm not sure. Coming from hey, speaking of Jamaica, Jessica and I, no lie, we're going to Jamaica. I'd have to look and see when. It's probably in June for our anniversary. So normally I was trying to see if here it is. We're going to the Sandals in Jamaica, July 22nd through the 26th. So we'll fly in. It's like an all-inclusive resort. We've never done that. My aunt does them all the time. Like, she's retired and her husband's retired, but they're always going to Sandals Resort. So I kept hearing them say that. I'm like, Jessica, we ought to do that for our 25th anniversary. So that's what we're going to do. So
25, that's a big one. Congrats,
it is,
man.
dude. Yeah. I'm surprised she stayed with me this long, to be honest with you.
Same.
Man, we have an awesome marriage, dude. But yeah.
Hey guys, I'm
Man,
sorry, but I gotta duck out.
Like, oh, awesome, dude. Yeah, I need to get your contact. Hey, shoot me an email, michael@youthmanreviews.com. But yeah, maybe I'll pick your brain, figure out what we can do in Jamaica while we're there, because we'll be there almost a week.
If he's got a home theater, you could do a home theater tour while you're there. I guess you might not have all your gear, but it could be an informal one.
Okay, here it is. He says, and I may be pronouncing this incorrectly. He says, Likkle is a little and B-way, a boy is boy in Jamaica. Oh man, I'm butchering this. Patois? I'm not sure what that is.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I'm excited, dude. But yeah, hit me up, man. Michael@youthmanreviews.com. I'll drop it in the chat.
Rusty, enjoy
y'all.
Great night, buddy. And Jonathan, you can bail anytime. You're not going to offend me, man. I'm hitting these last. I haven't started any in quite a while, but there's still a few more. All right, let me uncheck that. Uncheck that. How do we got 18 more?
Ryan must still be commenting. He's still Ryan's in the background, not on here, just commenting these things, starring them up.
All right, Ben, appreciate the $5 super chat. I didn't see a question. JR, appreciate the $2 super chat. Should I level match every time I add an amplifier? Great question. So if he just adds an amplifier, or maybe even swaps out an amplifier, could that could change his levels though, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're swapping amps specifically, they'll have a different gain structure, different amplification level, different voltage. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And good thing that, that's so easy. Dude, grab your SPL meter, it takes you 5 minutes, you can level match that. So that's easy. Man, see how we're flying through these, Jonathan? Oh, here, I do see Ben. Appreciate it. $5 super chat. He says, I don't have ceiling speakers. Should my surround sides and rear still be at ear level? So my thought on this is, number one, do you have multi-tiered seating? If you've got a single row of seating, the only issue that I have with having speakers at ear level, a couple of things. If you got high back chairs, then even if they're kind of behind you a little bit, like, all right, let me pull this up. Jonathan, I'm going to use you as an example. So let's just say this is your surround speakers right here. So you can see he's got his front row right here. I think you guys can see my cursor, right?
I don't
Can
think
you-
we can, but you
You
can
prob-
describe it.
Yeah, so the front row seats. Yeah, there you go. So here's his front row seats. So let's look at his your side surrounds that are in between the two.
It's so hard when you're.
I know it's backwards. So yes, right there. So imagine this. If his surrounds were at ear level and you've got 4 people in those front seats, it's going to be difficult to hear because your head is going to block that sound if it was at ear level. So that's my only concern. So I prefer to have them at least a little bit above ear level. It could be a foot, it could be 2 foot. And especially if they're slightly behind your listening position. So I'm always a fan of raising them up just a little bit. I don't like them at exactly ear level because you're going to block some of that sound. Jonathan, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think if you don't have ceiling speakers and you're not planning to put ceiling speakers in, that you probably should raise them a little bit.
Mhm.
I think that will kind of help because I don't know about you, Michael, but I've found in just listening to different stuff that sometimes there's like a phantom sound that can come from above, or you'll think that it's coming from above, even if it's not.
Yeah.
So the speakers being a little placed a little higher, if you don't have true ceiling speakers, can help aid
Yeah.
that. If you do have Atmos speakers, it's ideal to lower them a little bit more, but not to the point where it gets interference with the seat back or the person's head that's on the end of the row.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna throw this one up here real quick. What just happened? We got like a split screen. Oh, Jonathan, you playing with buttons, dude.
I was all zoomed in. I was like, get it off my face.
I mean, we can do that. Yeah, here we go. Whoop. My head's way bigger than yours though, so no thanks. Yeah, we've been to Dunn's River Falls in Jamaica. You can actually walk up this waterfall from the bottom to the top because it's not like real steep, but you walk up as a group. You're holding hands with like 15 people so you don't get swept away. That's an awesome experience. But we've already done that, so we'll probably do something. I'd like to do some other different things. Nicholas, appreciate it. $15 super chat. Can you outline the biggest difference between wide and narrow dispersion speakers in a system? Use JTR and per listen for comparison. What does wide give that narrow doesn't? Is wide more immersive? Man, great question here. So wide dispersion, so a speaker that has like a wider, I guess, trying to make it just really simple. So every speaker has an amount of sound angle. I'm just trying to keep it real simple. Dispersion, how it disperses that sound into the room. Jonathan's is like 130 degrees. Is that right?
150.
Dang it. I always get it wrong. I used to say 180, and that's like, whew. So yeah, it's about as far as my hands can go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's huge, 150 degrees. So some are much narrower, have a really narrow dispersion. So in my thought is the wider the dispersion, probably the more it's going to interact with the room.
Mm-hmm.
And the narrower, the less it's going to interact with the room. But I'm kind of with Nicholas. I don't know when you would need or want. Is that more of a preference, or do certain rooms dictate, hey, a narrow dispersion would probably work better in your room, or wide dispersion would? And I would imagine too with the amount of seats you're trying to cover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think there's just a lot of pieces there. What are your thoughts there, Jonathan?
Yeah, I don't think you did a bad job of explaining it at all. Typically, in a live room or an untreated room or a room with a lot of reflective surfaces, you want a narrow dispersion to kind of keep some of that sound off the walls. With a room that's got a lot of treatments or is a larger room or you got wider seating arrangements, then you want a wider dispersion. Wider dispersion can kind of make it sound like, and we've talked about this before, we're almost just like a wall of sound instead of a pinpoint of sound, and a narrow dispersion can be more of like a pinpoint of sound. It's a grading scale, right? It's not absolutes, but certainly that's the way it is. And I've had narrow dispersion speakers. I don't have a problem with them. Right now, of course, these are super wide dispersions.
Yeah.
So it when they give those ratings, it oftentimes would indicate how accurate it is with those wide ranges too. Because like a JTR speaker will have, for instance, and when you mentioned that by name, they're a 60-degree horn a lot of times, right? Michael, am I remembering that correctly?
I believe so, yeah.
So 60 degrees is the dispersion pattern. That doesn't mean that there's nothing outside of 60 degrees. It means that it's most accurate within 60
Like
degrees.
concentrated there, yeah.
Yes. And the majority of the SPL, it drops off pretty hard. And I don't know the numbers. Different speaker manufacturers probably use different numbers. Is it 6 dB outside of that down, or is it 10 dB outside of that down, or whatever? But when you go off axis beyond 30 degrees either way, if the horn's 60 degrees wide, both the SPL is going to drop and the coherency or the accuracy of the frequency response is going to drop outside of that range. And he's intentionally doing that with JTR. He's intentionally making it narrow. The horn is deep and it's got very strong sides to try to limit that overspray. And that's a design choice. Like that's what, he prefers to do.
Sure.
So
yeah, you're correct. So these are the speakers I have here, and they are 60 by 60 coverage. You can see 60 degree angle wide and 60 degree on the horizontal as well as the vertical.
Yeah, well, if you want to know more about that, Youthman had a podcast with Aaron's Audio Corner. What was this? Maybe a month or back or something?
Yeah.
Maybe a month and a half back. Maybe farther. I don't remember exactly, but he talked about this a great deal and kind of did a really nice deep dive on how to read those measurements and how to read polar plots, how to read like those, just basically the measurements that he's taken with his spinorama, and figuring out how that means and how to read it and how that relates to a room. So that was an interesting conversation. Go back and watch that one if you need more information on this.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. Ak. Yeah, appreciate the $10 super chat, Ak. Looking forward to my first M-Wave event. Already purchased my flight. I already said that, right? Or is that a different one? No, I don't think
you said
so.
this one. Yeah, this is another one.
This is another one. Already purchased my flight and tickets, booked a hotel room 2 blocks away from the convention center. Should be a really good trip and a great experience. So absolutely, man. We're excited that you're coming. It's going to be awesome. Man, dude, we got a lot of women that are coming. We got families that are coming. I got one guy, his wife submitted the for the contest and they won second place. So they got 2 general admission tickets and 2 VIP tickets. So I found out they're going to bring the whole dang family now.
That's great.
That rocks, man. So his son's got a little setup in his room. And so dad's going to take his son to the home theater experiences, 2 of them. So that is super cool, man. And then the wife and the daughter's coming too. So it's exciting. Jason Coward says, Ryan is my saving grace. I can always tell my wife, at least we're not spending 1.5 million. Now I can tell her we're not ripping apart our house to make our speaker fit. Good luck to you, Ryan. Mid-bass Maestro, why is Atmos music tracks on Amazon Music and other services so much quieter than the normal mix counterparts? I often turn my Denon 4500 all the way up when playing spatial music. Jonathan, you play a lot of spatial music in your setup. Do you find that true in your setup?
Yeah. So what is it? I'm trying to remember the name. It's Music Match, maybe on Apple Music service, and it might be something similar on Amazon's. What it amounts to is they're normalizing the volume. They're not doing compression. They're not taking away your dynamic peaks, but they're basically averaging out the track and saying to make sure that you're not getting blasted by one track and not getting blasted by the next. They're just lowering the threshold of all and making them more uniform. So the different services have a little bit of different threshold. I think Tidal had a very low threshold, for instance, like it was really lowering the volume quite a bit, like maybe as much as like 20 dB or something by guess. But as best I can tell, it seems like, and this is just a guess, it seems like Apple Music might be about 6 dB low. If I'm at reference, which I listen to a lot of spatial audio reference, it's probably more like, just feels like about 6 dB less than what it should be with movies.
Okay. So MW says, what did y'all conclude on the Trenov storm? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so my preference is neither, but we had 2 different groups in here. And so this will kind of tell you what's up. One group, when we were listening to it, preferred Trenov and the other preferred Dirac, Okay. So there was no clear preference, and I preferred my no EQ over both. And so did 2 of my friends. So there's that, or my manual EQ.
Okay. Ryan says, what parameters allow short throws to have Dolby Vision? Interesting question here. Versus none for traditional projectors. So most projectors,
the
Sony,
money,
JVC, Epson, they don't have Dolby Vision. Do they have an assumed size and matching screen from manufacturer that makes it possible? So one argument that I've heard just recently, and it kind of makes sense. Think about this with the ultra short throw projectors, they know like what size. Some of them they're fixed. Like this projector is 120 inch. This projector is 110 inch. So that's kind of similar to buying a TV that's 77, 65, 86, 98. You know what I'm saying? It's a fixed size. So they know they can dial that in for Dolby Vision. But with a projector, you've got varying throw distances, which is going to change the output. You've got varying screen sizes, which is going to drastically change the output and the lumens and everything. So,
and gain, like
yeah,
screen gain.
yeah, true. Even that, your screen gain can be in the negative or it can be in the positive, neutral. I think that's the biggest part is just not knowing that. I think Ryan's on it when he says, they don't know what the size is. They don't know what the screen's going to be. I think that's the biggest factor, and I don't know if they'll ever get to that point.
My personal opinion on it is it's marketing money, because I feel like it's a lot like the Dolby Atmos thing on a sound bar or something, where they've paid the money to do it, because even a short throw projector doesn't match the 1,000 nits that Dolby Vision had as a hard standard. I mean, where's that at? Like they remember originally when TVs were wanting it and they were like, you have to hit 1,000 nits or we won't give you our cert.
Right.
Well, what are they doing now? They just watered it down. That's my thought.
Okay. Could be. Gary Pye says, wanted to treat my ceiling, can DIY acoustic panels. Oh, so he can build some DIY acoustic panels, but how do I know where they go? Man, that's a great question. I don't have a great answer for you. Above the main listening position, more forward. So if he's putting cloud panels up on top, I mean, do you use the angle of incidence, angle of reflection, mirror technique?
I think that's pretty common. Exactly what you would do for your side panels in that kind of case. That's a good start.
Yeah, but man, honestly, I kind of put them there, but then I'm like, all right, I got room for another one back here. I got a room for another one back here, and so I wish I was more of an acoustician, but I'm not. Tyler says, I recently got an OSD 7200 and now I have an unused amplifier channel. Can I power 2 Crosons with a channel? So he's got an extra channel on his amp. So can he power 2 Crosons with one of those channels from the 7200, or my Tone Winner 7300 also have an open RCA on a mini DSP that I can use? So can he take I've never hooked up Crosons, but they're similar to butt kickers. So Jonathan, you've got experience with that. So if he's got an extra channel on a 7200, which is
210 watts. I've never used Croson myself. I've experienced them, but I don't know how much power is what they want. So let's look that up.
And I think they've got different versions of the Crosons too.
So what I'm reading is 500 watts max from just a quick web search. So you're not, especially if you're trying to run 2 of them, you're not doing that. I don't know. I think you're better off actually getting this information from the forum groups. Like, head over there and see how much power they recommend using, because I don't know that without digging into it a little bit more. I just don't have that answer.
So physically, he could use that, but he may not have enough power depending on what they need. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it says minimum 50 watts, maximum 500 watts on here. And if you're trying to run this, they're at 8 ohms, so that's good. I mean, you can double them up in parallel and get them to 4 ohms. 2 of them would be 4 ohms. But then you're only running 100 watts a piece, and I have no idea how they behave with 100 watts. Is it enough to move them good or not?
Okay. MW, what do you guys think of the new JVC projector news? My opinion on that is, I think and I shared it in my video, if you don't have a projector, and you're looking to buy your first projector and you're looking at JVCs, absolutely look at those. I don't see a ton of people selling what they have and upgrading. They are a performance increase. You get more brightness, you get better contrast, but it's not like a revolution, if that makes sense. It's not night and day differences in the specs, but it also just depends on, I've got friends that have already listed their JVC NZ9, and they're buying the 900 just because it's better specs. You know,
The
And that's
contrast
okay.
ratio is 50% better, isn't it? On the
Yeah,
on the
it's pretty
900,
high. Yeah,
it's like 1.5 million to 1 instead of 1 million to 1 or something. If I
I
remember
don't
right,
think is it that high.
or is it?
One,
Am I thinking 100,000 versus 150,000? I don't
yeah,
remember.
yeah, 100 to 150, I believe. Yeah, I don't think it was a million.
NZ900 contrast,
But like I said, I mean it's one of those things you've got to figure out.
150,000 to 1. You're right.
Yeah, you got to
So it
figure out
went
what.
from 100,000 to 150,000 to 1.
Mhm. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for improvement for sure, because those that want to have the latest, greatest, they're getting a better projector. Those that want a great deal on some of the, the NZ7s, the 8s, the 9s, because they're going to be even cheaper. You can get them on the used market now. So, yeah, I think it's a win-win for everybody. Actually, let me hit this one real quick. Just saw this come in. SF, appreciate the $5 super chat. Apple TV 4K and TV receiver supports eARC. Would it be better to plug the Apple TV 4K directly into the TV than use eARC to the receiver? 9.2.4 Martin Logan's is the speakers.
Why would you use eARC instead of just plugging it into the receiver directly? What's your reason there?
Typically, your eARC is so that you can get sound from your TV, like the apps built into your TV, back to your receiver and then out to your speakers. But yeah, I'm with Jonathan. I wouldn't go Apple TV to TV and then use because here's the other thing. eARC isn't always the most reliable. Sometimes I'll turn on my TV and I don't get any sound. So I got to turn it off, turn it back on. Then it syncs up. eARC's a little funky at times. So yeah, I'm with Jonathan. I'd hook it up to your AVR and then just use eARC for maybe you're watching the apps built into your TV, Netflix, YouTube, things like that. Getting that sound back to your AVR. All right, just a few more real quick. We'll run through these. TG, sorry. Hi from London. Good to see you, man. I know it's getting late over there. I place my left and rights a couple of feet from the TV wall because it sounds better for 2-channel listening. Any downside for when I watch movies in 7.2.4? I set my delays on the Anthem AVR. Cheers. No, I mean, if it sounds great for 2-channel where you've got them, and I'm assuming you mean from the wall, so you're basically coming out into your room a little bit more. I mean, the only downfall I can see sometimes, the further away you get from the wall, you're going to get less bass reinforcement, but you've got 2 subwoofers, so you should be good there. Jonathan, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, and I don't know any downsides when you watch movies. As long as you're rerunning your EQ and your distance settings for it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people, like the purist, will say you should pull them away from the walls a little bit. So that's pretty normal.
Yeah,
you can do it.
Ben says it's 3 a.m. in London, so TG might have went to bed. All right, last couple questions here. Sasakanth, how does this Sendo 16 compare to JTR? Who knows? I do not have any measurements for those. I don't think they've really posted anything, and would be guessing at this point for right now. I don't think there's any measurements out there, right?
No, Ryan might have some measurements, but I
share
don't think they're public. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe in the future we'll know. Kevin Orr, my current processor defaults all audio to direct. Yeah, I hate direct. What's the main difference between audio modes? Direct, pure, Neural X, man. So Neural X is going to be an up mixer. It's going to take, let's say if you have a 5.1, but you got 9 speakers, it'll up mix and try to utilize those channels. It's my understanding. Direct, I don't care for because all the systems that I've ever run, when you use direct, it removes the subwoofer, correct?
On the Denon Ranch, you can choose, but yes, by default, it does.
Yes, I don't like that. I just never liked direct. I just leave it in the, basically I let the receiver, whatever signal comes in, that's what it's going to use. So if it's a DTSX, or I'm sorry, a DTS, it's going to use that. If it's an Oro 3D, it's going to use that. If it's a Dolby Atmos, it's going to use that. If it's a stereo input, it's going to use that. So typically I do that. The only time I change that mode is if I'm listening to 2-channel music. Then sometimes I will upmix to Neural X or I will upmix to Oro 3D just so that I'm utilizing all my channels. So, Jonathan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you spoke to it right. And the Pure is supposed to turn off all processing and make it as just as like raw a signal as possible.
Yeah. I've never heard any difference in that. When I turn
Between
it
Pure
off,
and Direct?
well, like I guess from something like that. Because it's supposed to turn off all the video processing and it's supposed to clean it up. And
Mhm.
I don't hear no difference, man.
Mhm. I don't either. I think you're talking about that bench lab stuff really more than real world use case.
Yeah.
Now you can tell a difference when auto EQ disengages for sure. Like if you have that on or off with those modes, like Pure turns off auto EQ, you'll hear that difference. But as far as auto EQ already off and switching it to Pure,
I love it.
I don't hear that.
Chirpy says direct is sometimes the only way to have no lag. Run into this issue when we sing karaoke. So there's some benefit there. But probably not for home theater. But Ender, does anyone have any experience with octane seating? I don't think I have.
I have not. I'm not sure I've even sat any octane seating as far as I know.
Actually, I think I did one. I'm almost positive I did one home theater. It was actually, I'm pretty sure now. I don't know what model they were. You can go back and look, but it was a per listen home theater tour. He had octane seating. And his complaint, and I felt it, the head support was just really firm. And so he's like, I don't like that. He ended up selling at least his main seat to get something else, another brand. But that was the only one. I don't know if they were the Magnums or something else. Johnny E, what's up, guys? Look, I just saw.
I went out to the Octane site and they got a zero gravity recliner, which puts your head down at the ground and your feet up in the air. And I was thinking, what purpose is that for home theater?
Hey, that's a good way to listen to music, 2-channel music. When your speakers are on the ceiling, though, so it gives you a rush.
That's funny.
All right. So we're going to wrap up here in 4 minutes. Johnny E, what's up, guys? Looking forward to M-Wave. Question, what do you guys think about D-Sonic amps? I've heard nothing but good things about them. I believe they're Class D amplifiers, a lot of power. They're kind of expensive. Pairing them with a Trenov Altitude 16 processor. So I haven't heard anything negative about D-Sonic. Have you?
Frankly, I haven't heard much positive or negative. I don't know anyone with those, I don't think.
They look sweet. And that my guess is they're probably a little bit less expensive than the Trenov amplifiers. So I think they'd work fine, Johnny. Even look into Buckeye amps. A lot of guys use those. So, all right. Let me hit this one here. Ryan Atkins, appreciate the $10 super chat. Upgraded my Yamaha YPOW to Onkyo RZ70 with Dirac. And I don't care for it as much, mostly because of the soundstage depth and width. What setting would affect this? I tried without Dirac. It doesn't matter. Interesting. So when you turn Dirac off or on, you still feel like you don't have as wide or deep of a soundstage.
I mean, the only thing that I could say is if you're not in the same modes, and if you're using Yamaha has all those DSP modes that are kind of like custom only to Yamaha, where they've made like presence different, like they're intentionally making it different, and then other companies don't have that. If you were listening to one of those modes that are unique to Yamaha, then it's anyone's guess.
Yeah, because that's
but
using
as
DSP.
far as YPAO to Dirac, if that's the source of your claims, I guess it's true that I think some of the auto EQs can change the width or the presence or the feeling or the focus of the 2-channel listening. I think that's true. I've heard that as well.
I think the one thing that's interesting is he says he's tried it with the Onkyo, with Dirac on and with Dirac off, and he feels like it's still not as exciting to him. It's not as wide. It's not as deep.
Yeah, I mean, I when we were doing the Dirac versus Trenov comparison, I think there was a little bit of that soundstage, like specifically width, that we kind of were picking up between the difference, and I've noticed it even with Odyssey on and Odyssey off that it can change that. I don't know why that happens. I can't speak.
I'm saying when he turns it on or off, it doesn't change.
It doesn't get wider. He doesn't like the Denon or the Onkyo as much as the Yamaha. Period is what he's saying. Really.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's Ryan. I'm sorry. I've experienced that kind of stuff, but I don't know how to explain it either.
Yeah.
It'd be curious if what you would be curious to do is if you had that experience, and I should have done it myself for the years I haven't. When you notice that extra width comes into play, it'd be interesting to get a frequency response sweep and see if you can tie that to the frequency response sweep. If that's or if it's just not as accurate or perhaps more accurate of an impulse response. And so if your impulse response changes and basically your distances on your speaker is not quite, how does that affect your width to the point that you're thinking too? You know, if one of the systems isn't quite doing that as well as the other.
Man, that always stinks, man, when you feel like you're like, man, I'm getting an upgrade, and then it's like, oh man, it's a letdown. It wasn't what I expected. That's always if you don't.
I know Sheldon was real happy with his RZ50. I think was the one he had for a long time, and then when he got that Denon 6800, he called me and he said, "I'm not going back to an Onkyo after that." So that was interesting to hear. He said there was a lot of improvement he thought with the Denon.
Right.
And he was using Dirac with both, which is even more curious.
Right. Last question of the night. I had a lot of questions tonight. Cyclone says 83-inch OLED versus 100-inch projection. Okay, interesting. So this is a more fair comparison. You know, when you're talking 83 to 150-inch projection, I'm projection all day long. But this is, man, 83-inch OLED, deep blacks, beautiful colors, great brightness.
I'm doing an OLED. At that difference, I'm doing an OLED.
As big of a difference.
But
when you're talking about big screen, I'm gonna hit a big screen any day on a. He says OLED and sit a foot closer. I love it. Yeah, get that 100-inch view.
But the price difference is an 83-inch OLED really down to like $5,000 now? Because that's the Epson ballpark.
Sony 83. I don't know if they make an 83. Let's see. Sony 83-inch Bravia XR is like $4,800. There's another Sony 5300. So $4,800 to $5,300 looks like.
Yeah, I'm doing an OLED all day. Like that's not even a comparison for me. But as Michael says, if you're going up to like 120 versus an 83, now we got a discussion. You know,
it's a big difference in immersiveness for sure. And then if you get up to 150, like I said, there's no doubt I'd take a projector any day. It's something that big. Well, cool, man. 2 hours. We're trying to trim these down a little bit so that we're not 3-hour marathons, man. Because I mean, literally, you guys can ask questions all day long, and that's awesome. We love them. But the reality is, I know Jonathan's got a family. Mine's mostly in bed or they're watching TV. My daughter is. So, but anyway, we'd love to have you guys come out, hang out with us at M-Wave 2024, man. It is literally right around the corner. We're less than 2 months away. June 21st through the 23rd in Kansas City at the Convention Center. This is our 3rd year doing it. We're super pumped about it. I've got a really cool, actually, I'll drop it in the chat. There is just a short kind of demo, not demo. What am I thinking? Promo. Let's pause that. I'll drop it in the chat. Go check out this promo video if you haven't seen it. There we go. But we had a gentleman that put that together for us, did a really great job on it, just kind of capturing the essence of what M-Wave is about. So we would love to have you join us if you can make it. Like I said, we got folks coming from all over the U.S. as well as Jamaica. We found out tonight. That's awesome. We got Brazil, UK, Hawaii, several from Canada, literally all over the place. So we'd love to have you guys out. Next week, I will be at Scott. He's in the chat, living it with Scott and Kat. I'll be at your place next weekend. So I fly out late Friday night. His event's on Saturday, and then I'm fly back for Mother's Day Sunday morning. So it'll be a quick trip, but we'll see you guys next Sunday. So
Scott, I thought of you this week when I was putting some screws in my wall because I had a rattle spring up, and I remember we were talking about that. So got to keep on top of that, brother.
I know it, man. Later. That's gonna be cool. All right, guys, y'all have a great week.